Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Science. Honey bees are often described as insects that make honey, but that description misses what they actually are. A honeybee colony functions as a single system made of thousands of individuals. No bee understands the whole plan, yet the colony regulates temperature, allocates labor, stores long-lasting food, and makes group decisions with surprising accuracy. There is no manager inside the hive, no instructions being given. Still, the system works consistently and has worked this way for millions of years. To understand how something this small can be this organized, we need to look at honey bees one step at a time. Honey bees are not a recent part of nature. They are one of the oldest organized living systems still active on Earth today. Fossil evidence shows that bees existed alongside flowering plants long before humans appeared. What makes this remarkable is not just their age, but their continuity. The way bees live, cooperate, and survive today closely matches how they functioned millions of years ago. Many species disappear or evolve drastically over time, but honey bees kept a system that already worked. Their survival is not based on strength or size, but on organization. A bee colony operates every day with stability, balance, and purpose, even in changing environments. When you look at a hive, you are not seeing random insect activity. You are seeing an ancient system that has already passed every survival test nature could apply. That alone raises an important question. What exactly made this system strong enough to last for so long? Bees existed on Earth millions of years before humans, cities, or agriculture. During that time, climates changed, continents shifted, and countless species disappeared. Honey bees survived all of it without needing major redesigns to their behavior. Their body structure, social roles, and way of gathering food remained mostly the same. This tells us something important. Bees did not survive by constantly adapting in visible ways. They survived because their original system was already efficient. Each bee knows its role without being taught. Each colony adjusts to seasons without planning meetings. Bees did not need tools, writing, or memory outside their bodies. Their survival strategy was built into how they lived together. When humans later developed farming, bees were already experts at managing resources and energy. They did not change to fit the world. The world learned to work around them. A bee colony is not just a group of insects living together. It functions more like a single organism made of thousands of moving parts. Each bee performs small tasks, but those tasks only make sense when combined with others. One bee cannot survive alone for long, but the colony can survive for years. Food collection, temperature control, cleaning, defense, and reproduction are all shared responsibilities. No bee understands the entire system, yet the system works with precision. If part of the colony is damaged, other bees adjust automatically. This makes the colony stronger than any individual bee. Scientists often describe the hive as a superorganism because it behaves like one living body. The hive reacts, corrects problems, and maintains balance without thinking. Understanding bees begins with understanding this idea. The colony matters more than the individual. The queen bee is often misunderstood as a ruler who commands the hive. In reality, she does not give orders or control decisions. Her primary role is biological, not managerial. The queen's main function is to lay eggs and release chemical signals that help keep the colony stable. These signals tell worker bees that the colony is healthy and organized. If the queen becomes weak or disappears, the colony does not panic. Instead, workers begin preparing a replacement. This shows that the queen is important but not in charge. She is part of the system, not above it. The colony can exist without a specific queen, but it cannot exist without the processes she supports. This difference is subtle but important. Bees are not ruled by authority. They are guided by balance. The queen bee is connected to the entire hive through chemical signals called pheromones. These signals are not messages in words, but they act like constant updates about the queen's condition. The queen releases these chemicals naturally as she moves through the hive. Worker bees touch her with their antennae and pick up the scent. Then they pass it to other bees through contact, grooming, and shared food. In this way, the queen's chemical presence spreads across the whole colony, even to bees that never come near her. This system allows thousands of bees to stay informed without meetings or noise. If the signal becomes weak, the colony immediately knows something is wrong. This chemical connection is what keeps the hive organized and united. Without it, the colony would slowly lose coordination and stability, which shows how important invisible communication is in bee life. Worker bees do not need to see the queen to know she is there. Most bees will never look directly at her in their entire lives. Instead, they sense her through smell and touch. The pheromones she produces stay active as they move from bee to bee. When a worker receives this scent, it confirms that the queen is alive and functioning. Bees are extremely sensitive to these signals and can detect even small changes. This allows them to respond quickly without confusion. Vision is not important inside the dark hive, so bees rely on chemical awareness instead. This system works even when the hive is crowded or noisy. The ability to sense the queen without seeing her reduces stress and keeps the colony steady. It also means the hive can function smoothly without needing constant physical contact with the queen. A hive remains calm when the queen is healthy because her chemical signals maintain order. These signals suppress panic behavior and prevent workers from acting independently. When the scent is strong and consistent, worker bees focus on their daily tasks instead of reacting to threats that do not exist. There is no anxiety or confusion spreading through the colony. Bees do not rush or behave aggressively when the queen's presence is clear. The hive feels stable, and that stability allows efficiency. When the signal weakens, behavior changes almost immediately. Bees become restless and start preparing for a new queen. This shows that calm in a hive is not emotional, but chemical. The colony does not rely on instinct alone. It relies on real-time feedback from the queen's condition. As long as the signal is steady, the hive continues working without disruption. Worker bees make up most of the colony, and their lives follow a clear progression that is not random. A worker bee does not choose her job. Instead, her role changes naturally as she ages. When a worker first emerges, she stays inside the hive and performs simple tasks. These include cleaning cells and caring for young bees. As she grows older, her body and brain change, allowing her to take on new responsibilities. She may begin producing wax, building comb, or storing food. Later in life, she becomes a guard or a forager, leaving the hive to collect nectar and pollen. This progression keeps the most experienced bees in the most dangerous roles. It also ensures that important inside work is done by younger, safer bees. This structure keeps the colony efficient without planning or supervision. A worker bee's job changes as it grows older because its body changes with time. This process is natural and automatic. Young bees have glands that are best suited for indoor tasks, while older bees develop stronger wings and better navigation skills. In the early part of life, a bee is not ready to fly or defend the hive. As days pass, hormones shift inside the bee's body and unlock new abilities. This timing protects the colony. Important internal work is done by bees that are least exposed to danger. When a bee becomes strong enough to fly long distances, it moves to outside work. This way, the colony uses energy wisely. No bee switches roles randomly or too early. The system ensures that each job is done by the bee best prepared for it. This smooth transition keeps the hive stable and productive without instruction. During the first days of life, a bee stays deep inside the hive. It does not leave or explore. The environment is warm, dark, and busy. At this stage, the bee's wings are soft and its body is still developing. The bee learns the hive through contact rather than sight. It becomes familiar with the smell, temperature, and rhythm of activity. These early days are calm and repetitive. The bee moves slowly, performing simple tasks and observing through interaction. There is no confusion or wandering. Every young bee follows this same quiet beginning. This early period is important because it prepares the bee for more complex tasks later. Without this slow start, the hive would lose structure. The first days create order before responsibility increases, which is essential for a system that depends on timing. Before a young bee does anything else, it cleans cells in the honeycomb. This is always the first task. Each cell must be cleaned before it can be reused for eggs or food. The bee removes dust, leftover wax, and any waste using its mouthparts. This job may seem small, but it affects the entire colony. A dirty cell can spread disease or harm developing larvae. By assigning this task to the youngest bees, the hive ensures constant cleanliness. Cleaning also helps the bee learn the structure of the comb. It becomes familiar with cell shapes and spacing through repeated movement. This task builds skill and awareness without risk. The hive does not rely on special cleaners. Every worker starts this way, which guarantees that hygiene is always maintained from the ground up. The cleaning process inside the hive creates almost no waste. Bees reuse what they can and remove what they cannot. Wax scraps are reused in building. Organic material is carried out of the hive or broken down naturally. There are no piles of trash inside the colony. This keeps the hive safe from bacteria and pests. Constant cleaning prevents problems before they appear. Because cleaning is continuous, the hive never needs a deep cleaning event. Everything stays balanced through daily effort. This system is efficient and quiet. No part of the hive is left neglected. The result is a living space that stays healthy without excess work. The colony survives not by reacting to illness, but by preventing it through constant care. After cleaning duties, some worker bees become nurse bees. These bees are responsible for caring for the larvae, which are the developing young inside the cells. Nurse bees stay close to the brood area where temperature and humidity are stable. Their bodies produce special food needed for growth, and they spend most of their time feeding and checking larvae. Nurse bees constantly inspect each cell, making sure the larva inside is healthy and developing at the right speed. If something is wrong, they respond immediately. This care is continuous and calm, not rushed. Nurse bees do not guess what to do. Their behavior follows internal signals that guide them from cell to cell. The survival of the entire colony depends on this stage. Without nurse bees, no new workers or queens could exist. This role shows how the colony protects its future long before any bee ever leaves the hive. Bees know how much food each larva needs through a combination of chemical signals and direct contact. Larvae release subtle signals that indicate their age and condition. Nurse bees sense these signals when they inspect the cell. Younger larvae need different food and smaller amounts, while older larvae require more energy to grow. Nurse bees adjust feeding automatically without measuring or counting. They visit cells many times a day, delivering food in controlled amounts. Overfeeding or underfeeding rarely happens. This precision prevents waste and ensures healthy development. The process is flexible. If food supplies change, feeding adjusts across the brood. This ability allows the colony to grow at a safe pace. It also prevents weak bees from developing. The system works because feedback is constant. Every feeding is a response, not a routine, which keeps growth balanced. Royal jelly is a special substance produced by nurse bees. All larvae receive it at first, but only some continue receiving it. This change determines a larva's future. If a larva is fed royal jelly continuously, it develops into a queen. If not, it becomes a worker. Royal jelly is rich in nutrients and triggers specific growth patterns. It affects body size, lifespan, and reproductive ability. The difference is not small. A queen bee becomes larger, lives longer, and can lay thousands of eggs. This change happens without changing genes. The larva itself does not choose this path. The colony decides by controlling diet. This makes royal jelly one of the most powerful biological substances in the hive. It shows how food can influence destiny. A simple change in feeding creates two very different lives from the same starting point. Worker bees and queen bees share the same DNA. There is no genetic difference between them at birth. The only factor that separates a queen from a worker is nutrition during early development. This means the queen is not born special. She is made special by the colony. The same genetic instructions exist in both, but only certain parts are activated. Royal jelly switches on genes related to reproduction and long life. In workers, those genes remain inactive. This process is known as gene expression, but the result is easy to observe. Two bees with the same DNA grow into completely different forms. This challenges the idea that genes alone define destiny. In a bee colony, environment decides role. This system gives the hive flexibility. Any suitable larva can become a queen if needed. That ability protects the colony from sudden loss and keeps it stable over time. The development of bees offers a clear example of epigenetics, the study of how the environment can turn genes on or off without changing the DNA itself. In honey bees, every larva has the same DNA, but whether it becomes a worker or a queen depends on signals from its surroundings, especially food. This shows that genes are not the only factor determining an organism's future. Instead, external factors guide which genes are expressed at different times. In bees, the environment inside the hive, the attention of nurse bees, and the quality of nutrition directly control development. This natural experiment happens quietly and consistently in every colony. Scientists study it because it shows how behavior, nutrition, and environment can control life outcomes. Epigenetics in bees proves that even genetically identical individuals can develop entirely different roles based on external conditions. It is a simple yet profound system that keeps colonies adaptable and stable. In a bee colony, diet alone decides the caste of the developing larva. All larvae start with the same potential, but the colony decides their fate by controlling what they eat. Worker larvae receive a limited diet after the first few days, while queen larvae continue to get rich royal jelly. The nutrients in this special food activate certain growth pathways, creating the queen's reproductive organs, larger body size, and longer lifespan. There is no magic or choice involved. The colony manages feeding carefully to ensure the right number of workers and queens exist. If a queen dies unexpectedly, the colony can produce a replacement by changing a larva's diet. This system is efficient because it relies entirely on resources the colony already produces. Nothing needs to be planned or discussed. Diet alone becomes the deciding factor in life, showing how simple inputs can create complex outcomes. It is a quiet, natural form of control that shapes the entire hive. Larvae grow entirely in darkness and silence within the honeycomb. They remain sealed in individual cells and never see light or hear external sounds. Despite this isolation, they develop perfectly, guided by chemical signals from nurse bees and the structure of the cell itself. The dark environment is actually beneficial. It protects the larvae from temperature changes, pathogens, and disturbances. Silence reduces stress and prevents unnecessary movement, allowing energy to go entirely into growth. Each larva's body responds to the diet it receives, transforming into either a worker or a queen without ever experiencing the outside world. This hidden phase is critical for colony stability. Even though it may seem vulnerable, the system is extremely reliable. Nature has designed the hive so that life can develop under conditions humans would consider harsh. It is a quiet and controlled process, happening every day in thousands of cells simultaneously. Honey bees regulate hive temperature with remarkable precision. The colony maintains the brood area between 33 and 36 degrees Celsius, essential for proper larval development. Worker bees act as natural heaters or coolers depending on the need. When the hive is too cold, bees generate heat by vibrating their flight muscles without moving their wings. When it becomes too warm, bees fan their wings to circulate air and reduce temperature. This system works collectively. No single bee measures temperature, but the combined activity adjusts conditions automatically. Even minor fluctuations trigger immediate responses. The hive also insulates itself with tightly packed bees, wax, and honeycomb. This constant attention ensures that eggs and larvae develop evenly, preventing deformation or death. The temperature regulation is so precise that the colony maintains balance in extreme weather, from freezing nights to hot summer days. It is a continuous, invisible form of control that keeps the colony alive and growing. Bees heat the hive using a method called shivering thermogenesis, which is essentially vibrating their flight muscles without moving their wings. When the temperature inside the hive drops, clusters of worker bees gather around the brood and start shaking their bodies rapidly. This vibration generates heat, which spreads through the cluster and warms the surrounding cells. The process is continuous and highly coordinated. Each bee adjusts its vibration based on the temperature it senses, and collectively they can raise the temperature several degrees within minutes. This method is energy efficient because it targets the area that needs warmth the most. Even in cold or windy conditions outside, this internal heating keeps the developing larvae safe. Heating the hive is not random. It is a response built into every bee's instincts. Without this behavior, the brood would not survive, showing how individual effort contributes directly to colony survival. When the hive becomes too warm, bees cool it using wing fanning. Worker bees line up near the entrance or around the brood and fan their wings in coordinated movements. The fanning generates airflow that circulates cooler air and reduces humidity. In addition, some bees bring water into the hive and spread it over cells, creating evaporative cooling, which further lowers temperature. This activity is constant when needed, and bees adjust the speed and number of fanners based on heat levels. Cooling prevents larvae from overheating, which can cause malformations or death. It also keeps the hive comfortable for all bees working inside. The system works without a leader or plan. Each bee responds to local conditions, yet the overall effect is precise temperature control. Fanning demonstrates how a colony manages environmental challenges using simple, instinctive behaviors that together create a stable living environment. Stable temperature inside the hive is essential for developing brood. Larvae are extremely sensitive to heat and cold. If the temperature is too low, their growth slows and they may fail to develop properly. If it is too high, vital organs can be damaged and survival rates drop. Consistent warmth allows cells to develop in perfect proportion, ensuring worker bees and queens reach their correct size and function. Stable temperature also helps the enzymes and nutrients in royal jelly and other food work effectively. Small fluctuations may seem harmless, but in large numbers they can disrupt colony balance. Maintaining temperature is a continuous effort, and the entire hive participates, from heating bees to fanners. This precision ensures that each generation of bees emerges healthy and ready for its role. Temperature stability is one of the quietest yet most critical factors for the colony's long-term survival and efficiency. The honeycomb inside a hive is made of hexagonal cells, a shape that is both efficient and strong. Each cell fits perfectly with its neighbors, leaving no gaps, which maximizes storage space. The hexagon uses the least amount of wax to hold the most weight, showing how bees conserve energy and materials. Worker bees produce wax from special glands and mold it carefully into this precise shape. The comb serves multiple purposes: storing honey, housing pollen, and protecting eggs and larvae. The structure is self-supporting, allowing thousands of cells to hold together under the weight of bees and stored food. The hexagonal design is consistent across every hive, showing that bees build instinctively without measurements or tools. Its efficiency and strength make the honeycomb one of the most remarkable natural constructions. Every angle, every wall, is created to support the life of the colony while minimizing waste. Hexagons are the most efficient storage shape because they use the least material to create the largest possible storage space. Unlike squares or triangles, hexagons fit together perfectly without leaving gaps. This means that bees can store more honey, pollen, and eggs in the same area. The shape also distributes weight evenly, making the comb strong and durable. Each wall supports its neighbors, allowing the colony to build large, multi-layered structures without collapsing. Efficiency is important because producing wax requires energy and resources. By using hexagons, bees conserve wax and reduce the work needed to maintain the hive. The design is not a conscious decision, but an instinctive solution shaped by evolution. This simple geometric pattern allows the colony to maximize storage, support brood, and maintain structural integrity while minimizing effort and material. The hexagon is both a storage solution and a symbol of the hive's natural efficiency. Bees build comb without rulers, blueprints, or any form of planning. Each bee produces wax and shapes it while responding to local conditions, such as cell angles, neighboring walls, and available space. They follow instinctive patterns that create perfectly aligned hexagonal cells. When a bee starts a new section, it senses the position of existing cells and adds wax in the right places. Through continuous adjustment and contact with other bees, the structure expands evenly. No single bee oversees construction. The final shape emerges naturally from the interaction of many small actions. This method allows the colony to scale the comb as needed and adapt to the hive's shape. Even in irregular spaces, bees adjust angles and sizes to maintain consistency. Comb building is an example of complex architecture created entirely by simple, repeated behaviors working together over time. Bees measure wax thickness instinctively as they build comb. Each bee knows how much wax to apply to create a strong wall without wasting material. When adding wax, they use their antennae and mouthparts to feel the surface. They adjust pressure and layering based on the width and depth of the cell. This ensures uniformity across the entire comb. The thickness is critical. Walls that are too thin could collapse under the weight of honey, while walls that are too thick waste energy and resources. This sensing ability is built into their behavior, not learned through trial and error. Every bee contributes to the structure with precision, and collectively, the hive produces perfectly proportioned comb. The result is a balance between strength and efficiency. Even without rulers or measuring tools, bees achieve construction standards that would challenge human engineers. Wax is produced naturally inside a worker bee's body. Special glands on the underside of the abdomen convert sugars from honey into small wax scales. These scales are soft and pliable when first secreted. Bees remove the scales with their legs and mouthparts, warming and shaping them into comb. Producing wax is energy-intensive, so bees only create it when necessary for building or repairing cells. This internal production allows the colony to construct and expand comb as needed without relying on external materials. The wax is also pure and sticky, helping it adhere to existing structures and maintain the hive's shape. This natural process is continuous and synchronized with colony needs. Each bee contributes a small amount, but together, they produce enough wax to build thousands of hexagonal cells efficiently. Wax production inside the bee is the foundation of the hive's architecture and storage system. Wax scales form from honey that bees consume. Worker bees eat large amounts of honey, which provides the sugar and energy needed to produce wax. Inside their bodies, special glands convert the sugar into tiny flakes of wax called scales. These scales are small, pale, and solid when first secreted. Each bee produces only a few scales at a time, but thousands of bees together generate enough to build extensive honeycomb structures. Producing wax is energy-intensive, which is why bees rely on stored honey to fuel the process. This connection between food and building material makes the hive efficient. The energy consumed directly transforms into construction resources. Without sufficient honey, wax production slows, limiting the colony's ability to expand or repair comb. This system ensures that the hive grows only when it has the energy to support it. In essence, honey serves both as food and as the foundation for the hive's architecture. Before using wax for construction, bees soften it with heat from their own bodies. The wax scales are initially rigid and brittle, so they cannot be shaped immediately. Worker bees cluster together and generate warmth through muscle movement, raising the temperature of the wax. They also manipulate the scales with their legs and mandibles, kneading and pressing them until they become pliable. Once soft, the wax can be molded into precise hexagonal walls and cells. This process allows bees to maintain uniform thickness and strong adhesion between cells. Softening wax is essential because comb must withstand weight from honey and the activity of the hive. Without this careful preparation, the structure would be weak and prone to collapse. The combination of internal wax production and careful warming ensures that construction is both efficient and durable. It also demonstrates how bees use instinctive methods to solve engineering challenges naturally. Forager bees leave the hive for the first time after their early life inside the colony. This transition happens when their bodies are fully developed, wings are strong, and internal glands support nectar collection. Leaving the hive exposes them to the outside world for the first time, which is a critical stage. Foragers must navigate unfamiliar terrain, avoid predators, and locate flowers with food. Their initial flights are short and cautious, gradually extending as they gain confidence and experience. This first exposure teaches them the basic skills needed to survive and provide for the colony. The process is instinctive, but also involves rapid learning. Foragers will remember the locations and quality of food sources, bringing efficiency to future trips. The timing of their first flight is controlled by internal development, ensuring that only bees capable of surviving outside are sent out. This careful transition protects both the individual bee and the colony. Bees memorize landmarks around the hive to navigate efficiently. They use visual cues such as trees, rocks, or patterns on the ground to find their way. Even small details are noticed, and the information is stored in the bee's brain for later reference. This spatial memory allows them to return to flowers or water sources, and then back to the hive without getting lost. Bees combine landmarks with sun position and internal clocks to calculate distance and direction. They constantly update their mental map during repeated flights, refining routes and avoiding obstacles. This ability is not taught. It develops naturally with experience. Even when landmarks change slightly, bees adjust and continue to navigate successfully. Memorizing landmarks is essential for survival and efficiency, as it ensures that nectar and pollen are reliably brought back to the colony. It also enables the waggle dance communication system, where precise locations are shared with other bees. Bees use the sun as a natural compass to navigate the world outside the hive. They are able to detect the sun's position in the sky and orient their flight in relation to it. Even on partly cloudy days, bees can estimate the sun's location using patterns of polarized light in the sky, which they perceive with their specialized eyes. By combining the sun's direction with their internal sense of distance, they can fly to a flower, collect nectar or pollen, and return accurately to the hive. This ability allows them to cover large areas while avoiding unnecessary energy use or danger. Using the sun as a compass is instinctive but refined through experience. Each flight helps the bee adjust its calculations. The sun's movement changes throughout the day, yet bees track these shifts, enabling them to maintain consistent routes. This system is precise, reliable, and critical for the colony's survival and food collection. Internal clocks help bees track the movement of the sun, allowing them to maintain accurate navigation over time. These biological clocks are built into their brains and sense time in regular cycles. By knowing the time of day, a bee can calculate how far the sun has moved since leaving the hive and adjust its flight direction accordingly. This ensures that even if the sun has shifted, the bee can still head toward a specific flower or return to the hive efficiently. The clocks also help bees coordinate activities inside and outside the hive, such as foraging, feeding, and resting. Without an accurate internal clock, navigation would become inconsistent and energy would be wasted. Bees combine these internal cues with visual landmarks and sun position to create a reliable map of their environment. The interaction of solar cues and biological timing demonstrates a sophisticated natural system for navigation that works without conscious thought. The waggle dance is a method of communication used by bees to share information about food sources, not a performance for display. When a forager bee finds a rich patch of nectar or pollen, it returns to the hive and performs a series of movements on the comb. Other bees observe these movements closely. The dance provides essential information about the location and quality of the food, guiding others directly to it. The bee's movements are precise, including the angle relative to the sun and the duration of waggling. This system allows the colony to distribute foragers efficiently, saving energy and maximizing food collection. It is not a ritual or show. It is a practical, instinctive language built into the hive. Bees interpreting the dance understand and act on it immediately, showing that communication in the colony is functional, precise, and essential for survival. In the waggle dance, direction and distance to a food source are encoded in the bee's movement. The angle of the waggle relative to vertical on the comb corresponds to the angle between the sun and the target location outside the hive. The duration of the waggle run indicates how far the food source is from the hive. Longer waggles mean farther distances, and shorter waggles indicate closer sources. Bees observing the dance decode this information and use it to navigate directly to the food. Even slight errors are corrected through repeated dances and feedback from other bees who follow the route. The system is instinctive, and the signals are consistent across colonies. By encoding complex spatial information into simple movements, bees communicate efficiently without words or tools. This method allows the colony to exploit resources over large areas with accuracy, ensuring survival and productivity in a highly coordinated way. Bees understand the waggle dance not only by watching movement, but also through vibration. When a bee performs the dance, it creates tiny vibrations that travel through the comb. Other bees sense these vibrations using sensors on their legs and bodies. The vibrations provide additional information about the quality and intensity of the food source. For example, stronger vibrations often indicate richer nectar or more urgent needs. Bees combine visual observation with these vibrations to interpret the message accurately. This method allows communication even in crowded or dark parts of the hive, where sight alone would be insufficient. The combination of movement and vibration ensures that the information reaches many bees reliably. It also reinforces the signal, making sure that all foragers understand both the direction and importance of the resource. This system demonstrates that communication in bees is multi-layered, precise, and adapted to the hive's environment. The hive votes on foraging locations through repeated dance behaviors. When multiple scout bees find different food sources, each performs a waggle dance to advertise its discovery. Other bees observe and may follow one or more scouts to evaluate the site themselves. If they approve of the location, they return and perform their own dance, reinforcing the information. Over time, dances for the best sites become stronger, while less favorable sites are abandoned. This creates a natural form of voting where the colony collectively decides which food source to exploit. No bee forces the decision, and no leader directs it. The system is flexible and efficient. It ensures that foragers spend energy only on the most productive locations. This voting method balances exploration and exploitation, allowing the colony to adapt to changing conditions and maintain a reliable supply of food for survival. Bees demonstrate collective decision-making in many aspects of hive life, not just foraging. Every major action, from choosing a new nesting site to regulating hive temperature, involves input from multiple bees. Each bee responds to local signals, including pheromones, vibration, and touch, and adjusts its behavior based on what it senses. Patterns emerge from these interactions without central control. Collective decision-making ensures that the colony acts as a single, coordinated unit. It is efficient because it uses the instincts and knowledge of many bees simultaneously. The process also allows flexibility. If conditions change, the group adapts quickly. Decisions are reinforced by repetition, communication, and feedback. This system protects the colony from mistakes that a single bee might make. It demonstrates that complex coordination can arise naturally from many individuals responding to simple cues. No single bee controls the hive. Unlike human organizations with leaders or managers, a colony relies entirely on distributed decision-making. Every bee acts based on local information and instinct. For example, no bee tells others to fan their wings, produce wax, or follow a waggle dance. Instead, each responds to chemical signals, vibrations, and environmental cues. Despite the lack of a controlling authority, the colony behaves as a unified organism. Coordination emerges naturally from individual actions, and the system is remarkably stable. This means that if one or several bees are removed, the hive continues functioning. Control is built into the group, not any single member. This structure reduces vulnerability and allows the colony to survive in unpredictable conditions. Understanding that no bee is in charge highlights how collective intelligence works in nature, producing complex and adaptive behavior from simple rules followed by many individuals. Consensus forms in a bee colony without conflict because each bee responds to signals rather than instructions. When multiple scouts find potential food sources or nesting sites, they perform dances or release pheromones to indicate quality. Other bees evaluate these signals and respond proportionally, often reinforcing the strongest or most promising options. No bee argues or opposes another. Instead, weaker suggestions naturally fade as fewer bees follow them, while stronger signals grow through repetition. Over time, the colony converges on a single choice. This system avoids competition and conflict because every bee acts independently yet in coordination with the group. Feedback loops and repeated signaling guide the decision naturally. By relying on these instinctive interactions, the hive can make precise and efficient choices. Consensus emerges from simple behaviors, demonstrating that cooperation in a colony does not require leadership or debate, only consistent communication and response to collective information. Nectar collection is the primary job of forager bees. When they leave the hive, they search flowers for sweet nectar, which serves as raw material for food and energy storage. Collecting nectar is not instant. It is a slow and careful process. Bees must visit many flowers to gather enough liquid, often spending hours outside the hive. The nectar is mixed with enzymes inside the bee's crop to begin breaking down sugars, preparing it for long-term storage. Foragers memorize flower locations, quality and quantity, optimizing each trip. Once back at the hive, nectar is handed over to receiver bees, who continue the processing. This slow transformation ensures that nectar becomes stable, nutritious, and safe for storage. The process is precise and methodical, allowing the colony to store surplus food without spoilage. Nectar collection illustrates how bees turn simple natural resources into a reliable and lasting supply for the entire hive. Nectar becomes honey through a process of evaporation and chemical transformation. When nectar arrives at the hive, it contains a high amount of water, sometimes over 70%. This moisture must be reduced to prevent fermentation or spoilage. Bees spread the nectar into cells and begin fanning it with their wings, creating airflow that accelerates evaporation. Enzymes added during collection continue breaking down complex sugars into simpler, more stable forms. Over time, the nectar thickens, losing water and transforming into honey that can be stored indefinitely. This process may take several days, during which bees continuously monitor and adjust conditions. Honey's low water content and enzymatic changes make it naturally antibacterial and resistant to decay. This transformation is a key survival strategy, turning perishable nectar into a long-lasting energy reserve. It demonstrates the hive's ability to control and preserve resources carefully over time. Bees reduce moisture in nectar through repeated transfer from bee to bee. When a forager returns to the hive, it regurgitates nectar into a receiver bee's mouth. This bee may pass it to another before placing it in a comb cell. Each transfer exposes the nectar to air, allowing small amounts of water to evaporate gradually. This process, combined with fanning, ensures the final product is thick and stable. Repeated transfer also distributes enzymes throughout the nectar, aiding chemical transformation into honey. The method is energy efficient because evaporation happens gradually and naturally, without requiring heat. It also allows the colony to process large amounts of nectar simultaneously while maintaining control over quality. By handling nectar this way, bees prevent spoilage and prepare it for storage during times when flowers are scarce. This continuous, careful work converts a liquid resource into a durable, nutritious food supply essential for the colony's survival. Honey does not spoil naturally because of its low water content and high sugar concentration. After bees reduce the moisture in nectar through evaporation, the resulting honey becomes thick and concentrated. Microorganisms, such as bacteria and fungi, cannot survive in this environment because the sugar draws water away from them, preventing growth. The low water content combined with natural acidity creates conditions that are hostile to spoilage. Unlike many other foods, honey remains stable for years, even decades, when kept sealed in a hive or container. This natural preservation is critical for the colony, as it allows bees to store food for winter or periods when flowers are not available. Honey is essentially a permanent energy reserve. The hive's methods of preparation, including evaporation and careful storage, make it almost immune to natural decay, which explains why humans have used honey for centuries as both food and medicine. During honey making, bees add enzymes that further stabilize and transform nectar. When a forager collects nectar, it mixes it with saliva and enzymes in its crop before returning to the hive. These enzymes break down complex sugars into simpler forms, making the honey easier to digest for bees and humans. They also contribute to honey's long shelf life by creating substances that inhibit microbial growth. The enzyme called invertase is particularly important because it converts sucrose into glucose and fructose, which are more stable sugars. Other enzymes like glucose oxidase help produce hydrogen peroxide in small amounts, adding antibacterial properties. These chemical changes occur gradually as nectar is processed and transferred among bees. Without the addition of enzymes, nectar would spoil faster, and the colony could not rely on honey as a stored food source. Enzymes are a natural and essential part of transforming nectar into durable, nutritious honey. Honey becomes antibacterial due to the combination of low moisture, acidity, and the action of enzymes added by bees. One key enzyme, glucose oxidase, produces small amounts of hydrogen peroxide when honey is diluted. Hydrogen peroxide is toxic to bacteria, preventing their growth. The high sugar content draws water away from any potential microorganisms, making it impossible for them to survive. Honey also has a naturally low pH, which discourages bacterial activity. This combination makes honey not only long-lasting but also protective against infection. In the hive, antibacterial properties are essential because they help keep stored honey safe from decay, ensuring a reliable food supply. This natural defense mechanism is why honey has been used historically for wound care and preservation. Its ability to resist spoilage and inhibit microbial growth shows that the hive's storage process is both chemical and practical, providing safety and nutrition for the colony over long periods. Once honey reaches the right consistency, bees seal the cells with wax for long-term storage. This capping process locks the honey in place, preventing moisture from re-entering and contamination from outside organisms. Worker bees mold wax over each cell, creating airtight closures that preserve the honey's quality. Sealing also prevents evaporation from continuing unnecessarily, maintaining the ideal moisture balance. The wax acts as a barrier against pests, dust, and other environmental changes. This method allows honey to remain edible for months or even years, giving the colony a secure energy reserve for times when flowers are scarce. The sealing process is instinctive yet precise, ensuring each cell is closed completely and consistently. It demonstrates the hive's ability to store resources efficiently and protect them naturally. Without sealing, honey would slowly absorb moisture or spoil, showing how this final step is essential for the colony's survival. Pollen collection is a critical task for forager bees because pollen provides essential nutrition for the colony. While nectar gives energy in the form of sugars, pollen is rich in proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals necessary for growth and development. Worker bees collect pollen from flowers during foraging trips, often visiting hundreds of blossoms in a single day. Each flower offers different nutrients, so a variety of pollen sources ensures a balanced diet for larvae and adult bees. Pollen is vital for feeding developing larvae, producing royal jelly, and supporting the health of adult workers. Without pollen, the colony would weaken over time. The process of collecting pollen is precise and efficient, ensuring that the hive receives enough protein and nutrients to sustain thousands of bees. This highlights how honey bees manage multiple food sources simultaneously to maintain both immediate energy needs and long-term development. Bees carry pollen using specialized structures called corbiculae, or pollen baskets, located on their hind legs. As the bee visits flowers, pollen sticks to tiny hairs covering its body. The bee combs the pollen from its body and packs it tightly into these leg baskets. To ensure it stays in place during flight, the bee adds a small amount of nectar or saliva to moisten and glue the pollen together. The resulting pollen pellets can weigh almost as much as the bee itself. This method allows bees to transport large amounts of nutrition efficiently back to the hive. The design of the leg basket ensures minimal loss and maximum storage during each foraging trip. Packing pollen is instinctive, yet precise, and enables the colony to gather enough protein to feed larvae, support gland development, and produce substances like royal jelly. Without this specialized adaptation, pollen collection would be much less efficient. Once pollen arrives in the hive, it is transformed into bee bread, a fermented food that is easier for the colony to digest. Bees deposit pollen into comb cells and mix it with nectar and enzymes from their saliva. This combination initiates a natural fermentation process that preserves the pollen and increases its nutritional value. Microorganisms present in the hive contribute to controlled fermentation, breaking down complex components and making nutrients more accessible. Bee bread is softer and easier for nurse bees to feed to larvae. It can be stored for weeks without spoiling, providing a stable source of protein and other essential nutrients. This transformation illustrates the hive's ability to process raw resources into long-term, usable food efficiently. Bee bread represents both preservation and enhancement, showing how the colony turns simple pollen into a critical component for growth, survival, and future generations. Fermentation inside the hive is a controlled process that converts raw materials into stable, nutritious food. When bees mix pollen with nectar and enzymes, they create an environment where beneficial microorganisms can thrive, breaking down sugars and proteins. This produces bee bread, which is easier to digest and more nutritious than raw pollen. Fermentation also preserves the food, preventing harmful bacteria or mold from growing. The process is slow and precise, relying on temperature, moisture, and chemical balance within the hive. It occurs naturally but consistently across the colony, ensuring that stored resources remain safe and high quality. Fermentation transforms perishable ingredients into long-lasting, energy-rich food that can sustain the hive during periods when flowers are scarce. This natural processing system shows that bees not only collect resources, but also refine them intelligently. The hive operates like a self-sufficient pantry, turning raw materials into reliable nutrition through careful fermentation. Daily life inside a hive follows a calm and steady rhythm that keeps the colony organized and efficient. From early morning, worker bees begin cleaning, feeding larvae, producing wax, and caring for the queen. Foragers leave to collect nectar and pollen, returning periodically to share resources. Nurse bees attend to the brood, and some bees regulate temperature or humidity. Each task is repeated in cycles throughout the day, creating a predictable pattern of activity that reduces chaos. Despite thousands of bees moving and working simultaneously, the hive feels like a smoothly running system. The rhythm is instinctive, guided by chemical signals, temperature, and the needs of the colony. Even as environmental conditions change, the hive adjusts gradually, maintaining order. Observing the hive reveals a balance between activity and quiet, a continuous flow of work that sustains life. This rhythm is essential for survival, allowing energy to be used efficiently while maintaining the hive's structure and harmony. Bees do not sleep for long periods like humans, but instead rest in short cycles throughout the day and night. These micro-rests allow the bee to recover energy while remaining responsive to changes in the hive or outside environment. Even while resting, bees remain aware of temperature, pheromones, and vibrations around them, ensuring that essential tasks continue uninterrupted. Rest cycles vary depending on age and role. Foragers may rest more frequently between flights, while nurse bees take short breaks after feeding larvae. This system allows continuous work across thousands of bees without fatigue affecting the colony. Resting in short bursts is highly efficient, especially in a busy hive where tasks cannot be paused for long. It also helps maintain coordination, as every bee is alert enough to respond to signals or danger. These short rest periods balance activity with recovery, keeping the hive healthy, productive, and resilient. Even inside the dark hive, bees can sense the transition between day and night. They use internal clocks, temperature changes, and the activity patterns of other bees to distinguish time. For example, foragers returning from flowers signal that daylight is ending, and activity gradually slows. Pheromone levels and the frequency of vibrations inside the hive also shift with the time of day, reinforcing the natural cycle. Nighttime triggers bees to rest in short bursts, while day encourages foraging and brood care. This awareness allows the colony to adjust its rhythm without relying on light, which is minimal inside the dense hive. By sensing night, bees can coordinate feeding schedules, temperature regulation, and defense duties effectively. This internal sense of time ensures that the colony functions smoothly across a 24-hour cycle, demonstrating that bees rely on multiple cues to manage activity, even in complete darkness. Hive sounds change subtly with the mood and activity of the colony. A calm, healthy hive produces a steady hum, created by the vibration of thousands of bee wings. This hum indicates stable temperature, proper brood care, and consistent feeding. If the hive is stressed, such as when the queen is absent or predators are near, the hum becomes louder, faster, or irregular. Certain vibrations signal danger or alert the colony to unusual activity. Bees respond immediately to these changes, adjusting their work, fanning, or clustering. Even within the constant noise, individual bees interpret variations and react appropriately. This auditory feedback helps maintain harmony, regulate behavior, and prevent accidents or confusion. The sounds of the hive are therefore more than background noise. They are a living indicator of the colony's well-being. By listening to vibrations, bees coordinate, adapt, and maintain the delicate balance that keeps the hive alive. A quiet hive refers to periods when the colony operates smoothly without signs of stress or urgent activity. During these times, worker bees move steadily between tasks, foragers come and go at a regular pace, and nurse bees care for larvae in an even, calm rhythm. The humming sound is steady and uniform, indicating balanced temperature, humidity, and food storage. There is no chaos, fighting, or frantic movement, and the colony functions like a single organism. Quiet hives are a sign of health and efficiency, showing that all roles are being fulfilled effectively. These periods allow bees to conserve energy and maintain the structure of the comb. Observing a quiet hive, even in darkness, reveals the subtle coordination that underlies every action. The calm atmosphere is not accidental but emerges naturally from successful communication, temperature regulation, and task distribution. A quiet hive is both a sign and a result of stability in the colony. Stress affects hive behavior in noticeable ways. When the colony experiences threats such as predators, disease, lack of food, or the loss of a queen, bees change their activity patterns. The hum may become faster and more irregular, movement increases, and tasks shift towards survival and protection. Foragers may return earlier or in larger numbers, while worker bees may focus on defense or repairing comb. Chemical signals like alarm pheromones alert others to danger, creating coordinated responses. Stress also impacts decision-making. The colony becomes more sensitive to signals about food or threats, prioritizing safety over routine work. While individual bees remain calm in many situations, the overall hive reacts quickly to maintain survival. Stress highlights the hive's adaptability, showing that behavior is not rigid but responsive. Understanding these changes explains how a colony survives challenges without collapsing, relying on instinctive, coordinated responses. When bees face threats, they usually respond calmly at first. Instead of attacking immediately, they assess the situation using sensory cues, including vibrations, chemical signals, and visual input. For example, if a predator approaches, some bees may cluster around the brood, increase wing fanning, or emit warning pheromones to alert others. This measured response allows the colony to defend itself efficiently without unnecessary energy expenditure. By reacting calmly first, bees reduce chaos and prevent accidental stings among themselves. Only if the threat persists or escalates do they escalate defensive behaviors, including stinging. This strategy protects both individual bees and the hive as a whole. Calm responses also allow communication and coordination, ensuring that defenses are focused where needed. It demonstrates that bee defense is not instinctive aggression, but a controlled system designed to protect resources, brood, and the colony's future with minimal risk. Bees usually avoid stinging because it is a last resort defense with high personal cost. When a worker bee stings, its barbed stinger remains embedded in the target, causing the bee to die shortly afterward. For this reason, stinging is used only when other warning signals, such as vibrations, pheromones, or positioning, fail to deter a threat. The colony prioritizes safety and conservation of workers over immediate aggression. By avoiding stinging unless necessary, bees preserve their numbers and reduce unnecessary energy expenditure. Most encounters with humans, animals, or other insects are handled through calm signals, such as clustering, buzzing, or chemical alarms, rather than direct attacks. Stinging occurs only in extreme cases where the hive or brood is directly endangered. This restraint demonstrates the efficiency of the colony. Individual survival is balanced with colony protection, showing that bees operate with strategy, not impulsive aggression. It is a defensive system designed for long-term stability. Stinging comes at a high cost to a worker bee. Unlike some insects that can sting repeatedly, a honey bee's stinger is barbed. When it pierces the skin of a predator, the stinger becomes lodged and detaches from the bee's body. This causes severe injury, often leading to the bee's death within hours. Because of this, bees do not sting lightly or for minor disturbances. The loss of even a single worker can impact the colony, as every bee contributes to brood care, foraging, temperature regulation, and defense. Stinging is reserved for situations where the hive or brood is under direct threat, making it a final line of defense. This high cost ensures that bees use it strategically, balancing immediate defense with long-term survival. The sacrifice of an individual is weighed against the benefit to the colony, showing that instinctive behavior is focused on efficiency and protection rather than reckless aggression. Bees prioritize the survival of the colony above all else. Every action a worker bee takes, from feeding larvae to regulating temperature, is guided by this principle. Individual needs, such as energy or personal safety, are secondary to maintaining the hive. For example, worker bees will cluster to keep the brood warm, even if it slows their own activity or increases fatigue. When foraging, they balance risk against potential food gain, ensuring that trips are efficient and do not endanger too many individuals. Alarm responses are coordinated to protect the queen and brood rather than target an intruder indiscriminately. This colony-first strategy ensures that the hive can survive seasonal changes, predators, and scarcity of food. Even when individual bees die defending the hive, the overall colony benefits. The instinct to prioritize the group over oneself is embedded in every behavior, demonstrating how collective survival governs the life of honey bees. Drones are male bees whose primary role is to mate with virgin queens. Unlike worker bees, drones do not participate in foraging, brood care, or hive maintenance. They are fed and cared for by worker bees but have no stingers and do not contribute to defense. Their body structure is larger and specialized for reproductive purposes, with larger eyes to locate queens during mating flights. Drones do not live long-term inside the colony, and their presence is mostly seasonal. They may seem idle at first glance, but their role is crucial for genetic diversity and the continuation of the species. The colony invests resources in raising drones selectively, balancing their need for reproduction with the energy costs of feeding them. Despite their limited tasks, drones are essential for successful mating and ensuring healthy offspring in other colonies. Drones exist only seasonally because their purpose is linked to reproduction, which occurs at specific times of the year. During spring and early summer, colonies produce drones in anticipation of mating flights when virgin queens leave hives to mate. After mating season ends, drones are no longer needed and become a resource burden. Worker bees then actively remove drones from the hive, often leading to their death, to conserve food and energy. This seasonal presence ensures that the colony uses resources efficiently, focusing on brood care, honey production, and maintenance for the remainder of the year. By limiting drones to reproductive periods, the hive balances the need for genetic diversity with the survival of the colony. This approach shows how bees manage resources strategically, prioritizing tasks that support long-term stability over individual desires or excess, and highlights the colony's efficiency in matching population to seasonal demands. Drone flight patterns are specialized for mating. During warm, sunny days in spring and early summer, drones leave the hive in search of virgin queens from other colonies. They often gather in specific areas known as drone congregation zones, where dozens or even hundreds of drones hover, waiting for queens to arrive. Once a queen appears, drones chase her, competing to mate mid-flight. Mating occurs quickly and is fatal for the drone involved, as its reproductive organs are torn away during the process. Only a few drones succeed, but this ensures that the queen mates with multiple males, increasing genetic diversity for the next generation. Drones fly in coordinated but instinctive patterns, guided by visual cues and pheromones released by the queen. Their activity is purely reproductive, and they do not forage or work inside the hive. Drone flight and mating demonstrate the balance between risk and reward in bee behavior, as their sacrifice contributes to the colony's long-term survival and species continuity. After mating season ends, drones that did not mate or have completed their reproductive role are no longer needed in the hive. Worker bees begin to expel these drones, often forcing them out of the hive where they cannot survive on their own. This process conserves food and resources for the colony, as drones consume large amounts of honey but contribute little outside reproduction. Seasonal removal of drones is a natural population control strategy that ensures the hive maintains the right balance between workers and males. Surplus drones would otherwise strain the colony during times of limited food or harsh weather. This behavior highlights how bees regulate their population and resources efficiently. Drones accepted during mating season are essential, but their presence beyond that time becomes a liability. Removing them demonstrates the colony's focus on sustainability, prioritizing the survival and productivity of the majority over individuals whose role has ended. Natural population control inside the hive is essential for efficiency and survival. Bees regulate their numbers based on resources, season, and the needs of the colony. Worker bees control the production of eggs, the feeding of larvae, and even the presence of drones, ensuring the population matches what the hive can support. Overcrowding is avoided by limiting brood production or removing surplus drones. When food is scarce, the colony reduces reproduction, focusing on maintaining essential workers and the queen. Chemical signals and pheromones help manage these processes, signaling which bees should develop, work, or be removed. This self-regulation prevents waste and ensures that every member contributes effectively. Natural population control maintains balance and prevents strain on resources. It is a sophisticated system where decisions emerge from simple instincts and interactions, showing that the hive operates as a finely tuned organism rather than a random collection of insects. Swarming is a natural method of reproduction for the colony, not an escape from danger. When a hive becomes crowded or the queen ages, worker bees prepare for swarming by raising new queens and building extra comb. The old queen leaves with a large group of workers to establish a new colony, carrying part of the population to a suitable location. This process spreads genetic diversity and expands the species without compromising the original hive. Swarming is carefully timed and coordinated, with scouts searching for ideal nesting sites before departure. Worker bees maintain brood care and resource collection in the old hive while the swarm is forming, ensuring both colonies can thrive. Swarming is instinctive and highly organized, unlike panic-driven dispersal. It represents a reproductive strategy that balances growth, survival, and resource allocation. Through swarming, honey bees reproduce collectively, creating new colonies while ensuring both old and new hives are prepared to survive independently. Scout bees are specialized workers that search for new homes when a colony prepares to swarm. Their job begins even before the old queen departs with part of the colony. Scouts leave the hive and fly in different directions, exploring tree cavities, hollow walls, or other sheltered spaces that could accommodate thousands of bees. They rely on visual cues, memory of landmarks, and sunlight for navigation. Scouts also assess airflow, protection from weather, and the size of potential cavities. Each scout works independently, yet their combined efforts cover a wide area quickly. Once a suitable site is found, the scout returns to the swarm and communicates its location using waggle dances on the comb or temporary structures. Multiple scouts may locate different sites, setting the stage for a selection process. This behavior demonstrates how bees gather information efficiently, relying on instinct, observation, and communication to ensure the swarm finds a safe, sustainable new home. Scouts evaluate spaces methodically to ensure the new hive will support the colony's long-term survival. They check the cavity's volume, entrance size, protection from wind and rain, and temperature stability. Scouts also assess potential threats, like predators or pests, and examine internal conditions, such as cleanliness and suitability for comb building. Their evaluation is not random. Bees follow a set pattern of inspection, moving systematically through spaces and noting details. Each scout then returns to the swarm to share findings using waggle dances, with intensity indicating the quality of the site. The repetition of scouting flights allows confirmation of initial observations. Other scouts may inspect the same site to verify safety and suitability. This careful, repeated evaluation ensures that the colony selects a location that maximizes survival, minimizes risk, and supports future growth. By methodically assessing each option, bees turn instinctive behavior into precise decision-making for the entire colony. The hive chooses the best location through a process of collective decision-making. Scouts perform waggle dances to advertise their preferred sites, while other bees visit and evaluate these locations themselves. Over time, dances for the highest quality sites are repeated more vigorously, while weaker or less suitable locations are ignored. This natural voting process allows the swarm to converge on a single choice without conflict or a leader. By combining individual observations and repeated signals, the colony identifies the site that offers the safest, most spacious, and most suitable environment for building a new hive. The system ensures efficiency, fewer resources are wasted, and survival chances are maximized. Even in complex environments with multiple potential sites, this method produces reliable decisions. It demonstrates the power of distributed intelligence, where thousands of individuals working independently can reach a consensus that benefits the entire colony. Swarming is calm and organized because it follows instinctive patterns and clear coordination. Before leaving, the old queen reduces activity and prepares for flight, while workers continue brood care and comb maintenance. Scout bees communicate potential new sites, guiding the swarm in a structured way. The departing cluster moves slowly and maintains cohesion, with experienced bees controlling flight patterns and maintaining a steady temperature within the swarm. There is no panic or chaotic movement. Every bee knows its role. Even though thousands leave together, the swarm behaves like a single organism, balancing protection, navigation, and energy conservation. This organization ensures the new colony can reach a safe site without losing members or resources. Calm and structured behavior during swarming illustrates the efficiency and intelligence of the colony, showing that even large-scale migrations can be completed safely and systematically without central control or confusion. When a swarm settles in a new location, the rebuilding of the hive begins immediately. Worker bees start by exploring the cavity, cleaning it, and preparing it for construction. They deposit small amounts of wax to form the foundation for comb and establish the initial structure for brood rearing and food storage. Bees work together in a coordinated manner, with some focusing on comb building, others on guarding the entrance, and foragers collecting nectar and pollen from nearby sources. The queen remains at the center, laying eggs as soon as the first brood cells are ready. The hive grows gradually but steadily, with tasks divided efficiently to ensure survival. Even in a completely new space, bees establish temperature control, humidity regulation, and food storage quickly. The process demonstrates how instinctive behaviors, communication through pheromones, and coordination allow the colony to recreate the complex structure and function of a full hive from scratch, ensuring the continuity of the colony's life and productivity. Restarting a hive from scratch requires bees to rebuild every system that keeps the colony alive. Workers immediately organize themselves into specialized roles, performing tasks like cleaning, comb building, and regulating temperature. Foragers seek nearby flowers to supply nectar and pollen, ensuring a food source is available while construction continues. Brood care begins as soon as the queen has a suitable place to lay eggs, maintaining the cycle of reproduction. Bees also recreate storage for honey and pollen, set up ventilation through controlled fanning, and maintain a stable internal environment. Even though the hive is empty and exposed, coordination ensures that no critical task is neglected. Instincts and chemical signals guide every action, allowing thousands of individuals to work together without a blueprint or instructions. This ability to restart systems from nothing highlights the colony's resilience and efficiency, showing that the survival of the hive depends on collective effort, instinctive organization, and precise timing. Memory in bees is passed through behavior rather than teaching. Unlike humans, bees do not instruct younger members directly. Instead, knowledge is transferred through observation and instinctive responses. For example, forager bees find flowers and communicate locations via the waggle dance, while new foragers learn by following these dances and copying the movements. Worker bees also inherit behavioral patterns for cleaning, feeding, and comb building by performing tasks repeatedly alongside experienced bees. Pheromones and chemical signals reinforce expected behaviors, guiding each bee to act appropriately for its role. This form of memory ensures that the colony retains essential knowledge across generations without direct teaching. Behavioral memory allows rapid adaptation, as bees can observe and respond to subtle changes in the environment. Knowledge is encoded in actions, communication, and instinct rather than words, ensuring that the hive operates efficiently and preserves critical survival strategies over time. Bees adapt to new environments quickly by relying on observation, communication, and instinctive flexibility. When entering a novel location, they immediately assess the cavity, surrounding resources, and potential threats. Scouts explore the area and identify flower sources, water, and safe nesting spots. Foragers adjust their flight patterns to navigate unfamiliar terrain, memorizing landmarks to ensure accurate returns to the hive. Inside, worker bees monitor temperature, humidity, and brood health, adjusting their fanning, clustering, and feeding behaviors as needed. Even when conditions differ from the original hive, such as different airflow, light, or space constraints, bees coordinate to maintain colony stability. This rapid adaptation ensures survival and efficient growth in new settings. Collective decision-making allows the hive to respond to changes without a leader, while individual bees rely on instinct and behavioral memory. The result is a highly resilient colony that can thrive in diverse and changing environments with remarkable speed and efficiency. Seasonal changes inside the hive affect nearly every aspect of bee behavior and activity. As spring arrives, flowers bloom and foraging activity increases, allowing the colony to expand and store food. During summer, the hive reaches peak population, with workers focusing on brood care, nectar collection, and honey production. As autumn approaches, bees sense the shortening days and cooler temperatures, triggering preparation for winter. Pheromones, temperature changes, and reduced nectar flow signal the colony to slow brood production and prioritize food storage. Hive activity gradually shifts from expansion and reproduction to maintenance and survival. Tasks become more focused on conserving energy, protecting the queen, and ensuring that food reserves are sufficient. Even small changes in weather or resource availability influence the hive, showing how sensitive the colony is to its environment. Seasonal awareness ensures the colony remains prepared, balancing growth during abundant months with conservation when conditions become harsher. Bees prepare for winter by storing enough honey and pollen to sustain the colony for months when flowers are scarce. Workers focus on maximizing nectar collection in late summer and early autumn, concentrating on converting it into honey and capping the cells. Pollen is packed and fermented into bee bread to provide protein during the colder months. The queen reduces egg laying as fewer larvae are produced, which lowers energy demands. Bees also adjust the hive's internal structure, repairing comb, minimizing drafts, and reducing unnecessary movement to conserve heat. Foragers prioritize nearby resources to minimize risk and energy expenditure. Chemical signals within the hive communicate the changing season, coordinating the shift in behavior across thousands of individuals. By preparing thoroughly, bees ensure that the colony can survive extended periods of cold without leaving the hive. Winter preparation is instinctive yet highly strategic, demonstrating how the colony balances immediate activity with long-term survival planning. During winter, bees cluster tightly to stay warm inside the hive. They form a dense ball, with the queen protected at the center and worker bees surrounding her. The cluster acts like a single organism, generating heat by vibrating muscles while keeping the interior temperature relatively stable, even when outside temperatures drop below freezing. Bees on the outer layers insulate the cluster, sacrificing their comfort to maintain warmth for the colony. They rotate positions, moving from the cooler edges to the warmer interior, ensuring that all members share the thermal load. This clustering behavior preserves energy and protects the brood, which is extremely sensitive to cold. The cluster also minimizes airflow and maintains humidity, preventing moisture damage to honey stores. By acting collectively, bees survive winter months that would be lethal for individuals alone. Clustering illustrates the hive's ability to transform individual actions into a coordinated survival strategy during extreme conditions. Food consumption slows significantly during cold months to conserve stored honey and pollen. Since foraging is nearly impossible in winter, bees rely on reserves accumulated in the previous season. The queen reduces egg laying and worker activity decreases, with most energy directed toward maintaining warmth and essential brood care. Bees move minimally within the cluster, using small amounts of honey at a time, which extends the supply over several months. Pollen consumption is also carefully managed, providing protein primarily for the few larvae that are present. By slowing metabolism and reducing unnecessary activity, the colony ensures survival until spring blooms allow for foraging to resume. This strategy requires precise coordination and instinctive regulation of individual behavior. Even though energy intake is low, the colony maintains critical temperature, humidity, and protection. Slowed food consumption demonstrates how the hive balances resource management and survival under harsh environmental conditions, relying on both individual restraint and collective efficiency. Bees born in summer and winter have very different lifespans, a distinction that is crucial for the colony's survival. Summer bees, produced during periods of abundant flowers and warm weather, typically live only 4 to 6 weeks. Their primary focus is foraging, brood care, and comb maintenance, which requires high energy and constant activity. In contrast, winter bees born in late autumn can live for several months, sometimes up to 6 or 7, because their role is focused on survival rather than work-intensive tasks. These longevity differences are programmed by the hive through diet, pheromones, and environmental cues. The contrast ensures that the colony always has enough workers when flowers are scarce and harsh conditions demand conservation. Summer bees prioritize rapid growth and energy-intensive activities, while winter bees are built to sustain the hive over long periods with minimal expenditure. This strategic difference in lifespan helps the colony survive seasonal changes efficiently and continuously. Winter bees live longer because their physiology and behavior are adapted to conserve energy during periods of scarcity. Unlike summer bees, they are not required to forage extensively or perform energy-intensive tasks. They focus on maintaining warmth in the cluster, caring for the queen, and sustaining essential brood when needed. Their bodies store more fat, which provides energy for the extended period when food intake is limited. The reduced activity and lower metabolism allow them to survive several months inside the hive. The queen also lays fewer eggs during this time, which reduces the energy demand on workers. By living longer, winter bees ensure the continuity of the colony until spring when flowers bloom and foraging resumes. This extended lifespan is critical because it bridges the gap between seasons, maintaining the hive structure, warmth, and food consumption. Longevity in winter bees highlights the colony's remarkable ability to adjust biology and behavior to environmental needs. Bees can sense the arrival of spring before it actually comes, relying on subtle environmental cues. Even inside a dark hive, they detect changes in temperature, humidity, and daylight length. As days lengthen and sunlight intensity increases, bees adjust their internal clocks and begin preparing for increased activity. Pheromone levels in the queen's reproductive cycle respond to these cues, signaling the colony to gradually ramp up brood production. Foragers also detect early blooming flowers near the hive, bringing small amounts of nectar and pollen back, further reinforcing the seasonal change. These early signals prepare the hive for the burst of activity that comes with warmer weather. Sensing spring in advance ensures the colony is ready to take advantage of abundant resources, supporting rapid population growth and honey production. This anticipatory behavior demonstrates the hive's sensitivity to environmental change and its ability to respond proactively, rather than reacting only after conditions shift. Hive activity slowly increases as bees respond to the approach of spring. Workers begin foraging earlier in the day and extend trips to more distant flowers, bringing back nectar and pollen. The queen gradually increases egg-laying, expanding the brood to match the anticipated growth of the colony. Worker bees resume energy-intensive tasks like comb building, cleaning, and temperature regulation, preparing the hive for a larger population. Even internal signals, such as pheromones and vibrations, increase in frequency, coordinating tasks efficiently across thousands of bees. The hive does not jump from winter dormancy to full activity suddenly. Changes are gradual to conserve energy and maintain stability. By ramping up activity slowly, the colony ensures that food stores are sufficient and that workers and brood remain protected during variable early spring weather. This gradual increase reflects the colony's ability to adapt its behavior in a measured, strategic way, preparing for growth and productivity in the new season. Flowers are more than just a food source for bees. They act as partners in a remarkable ecological relationship. While bees collect nectar and pollen for energy and protein, flowers benefit from the transfer of pollen between plants, enabling reproduction. This relationship is mutualistic. Both species gain from the interaction, though neither plans it consciously. Flowers provide nutrition, and bees unknowingly carry pollen on their bodies from one bloom to another. Over millions of years, this partnership has shaped the behaviors and structures of both plants and pollinators. Bees time their foraging to coincide with flower openings and bloom cycles, while flowers have evolved colors, scents, and shapes that appeal specifically to bee senses. This cooperation is efficient, natural, and continuous, ensuring survival and growth for both parties. Understanding this relationship shows that bees are not simply exploiting resources. They are engaged in a dynamic system where behavior, biology, and ecology intersect in a seamless, life-sustaining partnership. Pollination occurs largely as an accidental form of cooperation between bees and plants. When a bee lands on a flower to collect nectar or pollen, pollen grains stick to its body. As the bee moves from flower to flower, some of this pollen is deposited onto the stigma of other blooms, fertilizing them. The bee does not intend to pollinate the plant. Its goal is to gather food. Yet this accidental action is essential for plant reproduction, fruit formation, and seed development. Over time, plants have evolved strategies that maximize the chances of pollen transfer, making bees highly effective pollinators. The process demonstrates a natural synergy, where two separate organisms achieve mutual benefits without conscious planning. Pollination supports global ecosystems, agriculture, and biodiversity. Understanding this accidental cooperation highlights how complex biological systems rely on instinctive behavior and natural interactions. Bees, simply by collecting food, drive a process that sustains entire ecosystems, connecting their survival to that of the plants around them. Plants have evolved over millions of years to attract bees, creating a specialized system of communication between species. Flowers develop bright colors, strong scents, and unique shapes to appeal specifically to bees. Some flowers have deep tubes that force bees to brush against pollen while reaching nectar. Others produce ultraviolet patterns invisible to humans but highly visible to bees, guiding them to the nectar-rich center. These adaptations increase the likelihood of successful pollination while rewarding bees with energy-rich food. Flowering times also align with periods when bee populations are abundant, maximizing the effectiveness of the partnership. The coevolution between bees and plants demonstrates a subtle, continuous dialogue in nature, where each species shapes the other's behavior and form. Without these adaptations, pollination would be less efficient, and both bees and plants would struggle to survive. By evolving to attract pollinators, plants ensure reproduction while reinforcing the ecological bond between themselves and bees. Bees perceive the world differently from humans because they can see ultraviolet light, which is invisible to us. Flowers exploit this ability by displaying ultraviolet patterns on petals that guide bees to nectar and pollen. These nectar guides act like landing strips, showing the shortest path to the food source. The contrast of ultraviolet markings against petal backgrounds makes flowers highly visible from a distance, even in dense meadows. This unique vision allows bees to forage more efficiently and accurately. It also reinforces plant reproduction, as bees are directed to the parts of the flower that ensure pollen transfer. Ultraviolet perception gives bees an advantage in locating nutritious flowers quickly, reducing wasted energy and travel time. It also demonstrates the coevolution of bees and plants, where flower colors, patterns, and even shapes have adapted to the sensory abilities of their pollinators. By seeing what humans cannot, bees navigate a hidden layer of the natural world that drives both feeding and pollination. Bees can recognize flowers almost instantly, using a combination of sight, smell, and memory. Their compound eyes detect color patterns, shapes, and ultraviolet markings, while antennae sense subtle chemical cues unique to each species of flower. When a bee visits a flower for the first time, it takes note of these signals, storing them in its memory for future foraging trips. Over time, the bee builds a mental map of which flowers provide the most nectar and pollen, allowing it to return efficiently and repeatedly. This recognition is fast and precise, helping bees maximize energy collection while minimizing wasted effort. Even in meadows crowded with different flowers, a bee can identify preferred species within moments. This ability is essential for survival, as finding reliable food sources is critical for the colony. Instant flower recognition also ensures effective pollination, as bees repeatedly visit the same types of flowers, transferring pollen efficiently between compatible plants. The scale of global pollination by bees is immense and often invisible. Honey bees and other pollinators visit billions of flowers every day, transferring pollen and enabling reproduction across forests, fields, and gardens worldwide. Their work supports the growth of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and countless wild plants that sustain other animals and humans alike. Without bees, many crops would produce far less food, and natural ecosystems would lose diversity. Pollination by bees is not limited to a single region. It is a global network of interactions connecting species across continents. Even small hives in local areas contribute to this worldwide system. The scale of their activity is staggering, considering that each individual bee is tiny and works instinctively. Collectively, the billions of foraging trips and pollen transfers maintain food chains, habitats, and biodiversity, showing that these small insects have an impact far beyond what we can easily see or imagine. Ecosystems quietly depend on bees for balance and survival. By pollinating plants, bees support the reproduction of trees, shrubs, and flowers that provide food and shelter for countless species, from insects to birds to mammals. The presence or absence of bees can ripple through an entire ecosystem, affecting predator-prey relationships, plant diversity, and soil health. Even in areas where humans do not cultivate crops, bees maintain natural plant populations, ensuring that forests, meadows, and wetlands remain productive. Their activity is continuous and mostly unnoticed, yet essential for ecosystem stability. Bees also contribute to genetic diversity in plants, strengthening populations against disease and environmental changes. Without these pollinators, entire habitats could collapse or become dominated by a few species, reducing biodiversity and resilience. This invisible support shows that bees are not just food gatherers. They are key engineers of the natural world, quietly sustaining life on a massive scale. Bees maintain ecological balance without awareness, operating entirely through instinct and behavioral cues. They do not understand the consequences of pollination or the global importance of their work, yet their actions ensure survival for plants, animals, and humans. Every flower visited, every pollen grain carried, and every hive maintained contributes to a self-regulating system. Worker bees follow simple rules: forage efficiently, care for brood, regulate temperature, and communicate with hive mates. The cumulative effect of these behaviors creates harmony within the colony and the broader ecosystem. For example, by pollinating multiple species, bees prevent any single plant from dominating an area, supporting diversity. Their impact emerges naturally from repeated, instinctive behaviors rather than conscious planning. This shows how complex systems can function and remain stable through simple individual actions. Bees are a perfect example of how nature achieves balance through coordination and cooperation, even when the participants have no understanding of the bigger picture. Bees are considered indicators of environmental health because their survival depends on clean air, abundant flowers, and stable ecosystems. When bee populations decline, it often signals problems like pollution, pesticide overuse, habitat loss, or climate change. Healthy hives suggest that the surrounding environment provides sufficient nectar and pollen, moderate temperatures, and safe nesting areas. Scientists monitor bees to assess plant diversity, soil quality, and ecosystem balance. Because bees interact with so many species, any disturbance in the environment quickly affects them. Their sensitivity makes them early warning systems for environmental stress that might later impact other animals and humans. By observing bee behavior, reproduction rates, and colony strength, researchers gain insights into the health of broader ecosystems. In this way, bees serve as a natural barometer for environmental stability, highlighting subtle changes long before they become noticeable in other parts of the ecosystem. Modern challenges face bees in ways that quietly test their survival. Pesticides, diseases, invasive species, habitat loss, and climate change all threaten colonies worldwide. Unlike dramatic disasters, these challenges often act subtly, affecting food availability, navigation, or reproductive health. Bees may return to hives weaker or with less pollen, or larvae may develop more slowly. Despite these pressures, colonies often adjust by reallocating workers, storing extra food, or changing foraging patterns. Observing these challenges calmly reveals the resilience of bees as they continue their routines, adapt to changes, and maintain the hive even under stress. Understanding these issues requires patience, as the effects are cumulative rather than immediate. By studying how bees cope, humans gain insights into environmental health, resource management, and the consequences of human actions. The calm persistence of bees under pressure is a reminder of their importance and vulnerability. Small changes in the environment can have a large effect on entire bee colonies. Even slight shifts in temperature, nectar availability, or exposure to chemicals can alter hive behavior. For example, a few days of cold weather may delay foraging, reducing food stores and slowing brood development. Pesticide residues in flowers can weaken worker bees, reducing their efficiency and lifespan. Changes in plant blooming times may force bees to forage farther or alter their flight patterns, increasing energy use and risk. Because hives operate as interconnected systems, a small disturbance in one area can ripple throughout the colony, affecting feeding, brood care, temperature regulation, and defense. This sensitivity shows how finely tuned bee behavior is and why colonies must constantly adjust to survive. It also highlights the importance of environmental stability and careful human management, as even minor disruptions can create cascading effects within these complex, self-organizing communities. Humans benefit silently from bees in countless ways that often go unnoticed. By pollinating crops, Bees increase the yield and quality of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds that feed millions of people worldwide. They maintain the health of wild plants, which support animals, prevent soil erosion, and stabilize ecosystems. Honey, beeswax, and other products provide nutrition, materials, and economic value, but the most significant contribution is the ecosystem service of pollination. Without bees, food production would drop, prices would rise, and diets would become less diverse. Their work also supports forests, meadows, and other natural areas, ensuring that oxygen production, carbon storage, and biodiversity continue uninterrupted. Despite these massive benefits, bees work without awareness of their impact. Their instinctive behaviors create outcomes that sustain human civilization and natural ecosystems alike. Recognizing these silent contributions emphasizes the importance of protecting bees and their habitats for the long-term health of our environment and food systems. Honey bees rarely seek attention because their survival depends on efficiency and discretion rather than spectacle. Unlike animals that use loud calls or bright displays to attract mates or assert dominance, honey bees operate largely through chemical signals, subtle vibrations, and coordinated movement within the hive. Worker bees perform thousands of tasks every day, building comb, feeding brood, foraging, and regulating temperature, without drawing unnecessary attention to themselves. The queen emits pheromones to maintain order quietly, and foragers communicate important information through dances that only other bees understand. This quiet, focused behavior ensures the colony functions smoothly while avoiding predators or wasting energy on display. Bees' instinctive modesty also reduces conflict within the hive, keeping activities organized and balanced. Their lack of attention-seeking highlights how the success of the colony depends on cooperation, precision, and focus on survival, rather than individual recognition. Every action is purposeful, yet subtle, sustaining life without fanfare. Bees function as systems of balance and rhythm, with every action contributing to the colony's stability. The hive operates like a living network, where feeding, cleaning, temperature regulation, and brood care follow predictable patterns. Tasks are distributed based on age, skill, and environmental needs, creating a natural rhythm that aligns with seasons, daylight, and resource availability. Workflows flow smoothly. Foragers return with nectar, nurse bees feed larvae, and guards monitor entrances, all in coordinated cycles. The colony maintains equilibrium, responding to threats, weather changes, or food scarcity without chaos. This balance ensures survival and growth, as each bee's behavior complements the actions of thousands of others. Hive rhythms reflect the interconnectedness of individuals and the larger system, where stability is achieved without conscious planning. Observing this balance shows that honey bees are not just insects performing tasks. They are participants in a precise, self-regulating organism, operating with efficiency, consistency, and subtle harmony. The hive can be described as a living, breathing process, constantly evolving yet steady. Cells are built, cleaned, and filled with honey and pollen. Larvae grow and emerge. Workers rotate through tasks, and the queen lays eggs in a continuous cycle. Air moves through the hive as bees fan their wings to regulate temperature and humidity, creating a dynamic environment where life and energy flow uninterrupted. Sound and vibration ripple through the colony, conveying messages and maintaining coordination. Even when the hive appears still, energy circulates as bees maintain warmth, store food, and prepare for future needs. Life within the hive is both microscopic and vast, combining thousands of small actions into a system larger than the sum of its parts. It breathes, grows, and adapts without central direction, exemplifying how instinct, cooperation, and environmental sensitivity can produce an organism-like system capable of resilience and continuity. Returning to the quiet continuity of the hive reveals how honey bees have maintained their work for millions of years. Despite environmental changes, challenges, and threats, the colony functions with steady purpose. Bees move in subtle rhythms, combs are constructed, nectar is collected and transformed into honey, and larvae are nurtured, all without pause or fanfare. The queen's pheromones, worker diligence, and scout navigation create a seamless flow of life that has existed long before humans and will likely continue long after. Even when we do not observe them, the hive operates as a self-sustaining system, quietly balancing growth, reproduction, and survival. This continuity is a testament to the resilience, coordination, and instinctive intelligence of honey bees. Observing or imagining the hive reminds us that life can be complex, cooperative, and enduring without spectacle, and that these small creatures maintain an intricate, ongoing process that quietly supports both their species and the ecosystems around them.